As we've talked about all season on utilizing AI, great AI needs excellent data infrastructure from capacity to performance and efficiency. This episode of Utilizing Tech serves as sort of a capstone for season 6 and a preview of season 7, which is brought to you by Solidigm and features co-hosts Jeniece Wnorowski and Ace Stryker, along with myself, Stephen Foskett. So listen in as we give you a preview of the next season of Utilizing Tech, which kicks off on June 3rd, and maybe a few bits of information to sum up what we talked about all during season 6. Welcome to Utilizing Tech, the podcast about emerging technology from Tech Field Day, part of the Futurum Group. This bonus episode focuses on our next season of Utilizing Tech, presented to you by Solidigm. We are going to focus on AI data infrastructure in enterprise IT, which is a key topic that has emerged here on season 6 of Utilizing, focusing on AI. I'm your host, Stephen Foskett, organizer of the Tech Field Day event series. Joining me as my co-hosts today and all season long here in season 7, we have Jeniece Wnorowski and Ace Stryker from Solidigm. Welcome to the show. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourselves, starting with Jeniece?
Thank you, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be here. We're really excited about this series. I'm Jeniece Wnorowski. I've been with Solidigm since its inception. I've been in the storage business for over 15 years, and I'm just really excited to work with you all to dive into some really meaty topics around storage and how we are fueling the AI era. So I'll turn it over to Ace, our co-host here, for an intro as well.
Thanks, Jeniece. Thanks, Stephen. I'm really psyched to be here with you guys as well. I am Director of Market Development at Solidigm and have been in the solid-state memory business since about 2017, starting at Intel and moving over to Solidigm when it was born at the end of 2021. And in my job, I spend a lot of time focused on emerging opportunities for our storage products. To do that, a big part of the job is understanding sort of the infrastructure story from start to finish. And very much focused these days on AI, and likely will be for some time, as things, as you know, Stephen, are just blowing up there.
Yeah, that's one of the things listeners of Utilizing Tech might remember you. Back in March, we had you on, and we were talking about why great AI needs great storage. And that was really the seed, the acorn that this whole season grew out of. The idea that in order to have great AI, you need great storage, and not just because storage is so important to AI. Now, obviously, Jeniece and I have been in storage industry for a long time and think that storage is the most important thing in the universe. But beyond that, I think that what we're seeing is that AI does place incredible demands on storage, both in terms of capacity, in terms of efficiency, in terms of data transfer, as well as things that you might not think about: sustainability, energy efficiency, things like that. So I guess, Ace, do you want to sort of recap what we talked about back in March? What are the various things that makes storage so indispensable to AI infrastructure?
Sure, you bet. When you step back and you look at sort of the AI data pipeline as a whole, and what are your hardware and your software requirements to do AI work, a lot of the focus is on compute, and rightly so. You need a lot of compute horsepower to clean data, to train a model, to validate a model, and then to deploy it in the real world and make it useful for folks, right? And so the focus from our company's point of view has been, how do we help folks who are spending all that money and energy and effort on really high-powered data centers? How do we support that and make sure that the right storage is there to feed those GPUs, maximize utilization, and ultimately improve two things: performance, right? You want to get this done faster, and you want to have higher quality models at the end of the day, and then total cost of ownership, or TCO. And so it turns out that storage plays a pretty big role in both of those vectors when you're talking about the suitability of a given data center infrastructure for AI work. So For example, if you're using hard drives to power a lot of your work, and I think we'll get into this in the course of the season, right? And we'll talk about sort of pros and cons there. But you're probably consuming a lot of space and power to do that. Your random read performance is very low, which has implications on your training speed and so forth. And so you've got to think about more than just compute, right? You've got to think about an optimized infrastructure as a whole, and make sure that the model, which is only as good as the data that goes into it, which is only as good as the storage that data lives on, right? You've got to make sure that that model is getting not just a lot of compute power thrown at it, but very capable and cost optimized storage as well to sort of design and deploy the ideal infrastructure.
I agree with Ace. It is, it is a time where a lot of our organizations that we're working with are, in a variety of environments. They're in a read intensive environment. They're in a mixed workload environment. And so the beauty of what Solidigm has to bring here is just kind of a full suite, a full stack of products that really address the various stages that folks are dealing with when it comes to the AI data pipeline.
So, Jeniece, you've been participating in a lot of our field day events in the past, and we have seen Solidigm present. But one of the things that I love is that Solidigm comes in often with partners, and these partners are able to tell an integrated story that goes way beyond the SSDs and things like that, and really goes to the entire system stack. And so it was important when we were talking about this season that we would have a very partner focused story. I wonder, can you talk a little bit about the sort of partners that we're going to be bringing into season 7 as a way to give our listeners something to look forward to? Because we've got some pretty good names here.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Such a great question. We are passionate, just as passionate about our partners as the products that we build to support them. We are big on our short-term and long-term roadmap. These guys, we look forward to helping them solve their individual problems, and all of their problems are a little bit unique. Some of them not so unique and be learned from across the industry. So we're super excited to bring our partners onto this series. Partners like Data Direct Networks, go by DDN, right, where they're doing a lot with their all flash systems, populating it with all things high density storage to solve some of those deeper AI challenges. We will also have partners in the software space, right? Partners who are working out with us to fine tune the products that we develop to, further allow AI algorithms and AI workloads to take advantage of our drive. So we'll be excited to hear from an organization like Xenor or even Grade, right? And then also the work that we do, and this is like the heartbeat of who we are, is working with our own partners, such as Dell and HPE, even NetApp to some degree, right? So having a mixture of software, hardware, and kind of the, I would say innovative folks will be just exciting, I think, to learn from. The one partner I did not mention yet, speaking of innovation, is CoreWeave, right? CoreWeave is one of the most interesting CSPs on the market today. They're an all GPU cloud-based organization. I think they claim that they have more GPUs running in their data center than most companies. And so how are they fueling those data centers with those GPUs, massive amounts of power, and how are they utilizing high density storage like QLC to kind of bring down the overall total cost of ownership, the power savings, right? And still getting that super solid, performance they need to run that cloud effectively.
One of the most interesting things I think about the CoreWeave story is that they are really telling the story that we're trying to get at with this season. Because if AI data infrastructure is the critical topic for this whole season, CoreWeave is one of the biggest, most innovative, most leading edge developers of AI data infrastructure. I mean, they're literally building the same kind of things that the leading hyperscalers are building, except they're building it for others to use. I'm really looking forward to that because CoreWeave also, because they're so big and because they're so focused on this entire stack, they have a lot of insight into what we're getting at here in terms of the importance of storage. So as we've said, it's important to have performance. Obviously, it's hard to get a lot of IOPS out of a hard drive, obviously. But it's also important for other things. One of the things that Ace was talking about previously, the density of servers, the density of storage within those servers. Also, as you mentioned, the power efficiency. As we're recording this, the news just came out that there's a project to build a 5 gigawatt data center just for AI use. Now, just for comparison there, 5 gigawatts, that is about 1/20th of all the solar energy generated in the United States. That is 500 million LED light bulbs. That is an incredible amount of power. And or 4 time traveling DeLoreans, I should ask. That's a lot, of gigawatts of power. And when you're dealing with that, when you have that kind of power capacity, but also when you're talking about the cost of kitting out all those servers, storage becomes one area that you can really try to optimize. So let's talk there a little bit about energy efficiency too, because one of the aspects of higher density and higher performance storage is that means that you're using less power and less cost to deliver the same or better performance, right, Ace?
Yeah, well, first of all, Stephen, I'm in favor of using the DeLorean as a unit of measurement for all our future power analogies on this program. But yeah, you're absolutely right. When you think about the power demands in the newest data centers, specifically those geared toward AI processing, it's almost difficult to fathom what we're talking about. You're starting to see more and more laws and regulations evolve in different parts of the world that specifically address this problem, because it is becoming a problem on a national scale for a number of countries. Like, hey, we cannot afford to just keep putting in as many AI data centers as we might want to. The grid cannot support it, right? And so efficiency is a huge part of the story there. And we've seen cases where 35% of power consumption in an AI data center is consumed by storage. I mean, it's not an insignificant portion. You think about the GPUs, and they're churning all the time, and they're big, and they're hungry, and they're hot, and all that's true. But I mean, more than a third of that going to power your storage devices is a huge deal. And so there's a lot of room for optimization there. And when you talk about the energy issue, and you talk about sustainability long term, right? It's really a function. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can factor in there, but what I've observed is it's really a function of two things going on that move the meter the most, if you will, in that conversation. One is density. How much storage per device are you getting? The denser it is, the higher capacity of the drives, right? The more power efficient you're going to be. And the other is utilization. And that has to do with, are you replicating data across several drives? If you have hard drives, are you short stroking them to meet some minimum IOPS requirement, right? So those are the two things that really create a bunch of, frankly, inefficiency and opportunity for optimization. Moving to higher density drives in smaller form factors, it reduces the number of individual drives you need to power, right? But it also saves on cooling costs and space costs and weight, if that's a concern. And so all these things have huge implications that you don't necessarily think about, at the CapEx stage when you're buying a bunch of gear to put in your big server farm. But in terms of OpEx, and 5 to 7 years after the purchase, how much is it costing you to keep this thing running? Density is a huge deal. And then utilization is the other one. We've seen a lot of setups where, for example, hard drives are rated and the data is triplicated. So you're talking about 3 times as many drives purely for replication before you even get into the the short stroking conversation. And so very quickly, you can run up an astronomical power bill, right? Depending on some of the storage decisions you make. And so certainly optimizing your compute as a part of that infrastructure is important, but there's a lot we can talk about on the sustainability and the power consumption side as well.
Yeah, it really is transformative when you talk about optimized storage performance and storage capacity. I mean, most of us experience this on a daily basis with our new laptops. It's not like people are going out there buying laptops with hard drives in them anymore. And the reason isn't because they're incredibly cheap. I mean, yeah, it still costs a little bit more to use flash instead of spinning media, but it's totally worth it with all the other benefits that you're getting in terms of the whole form factor of the machine, the power budget of the machine, and frankly, it's not that much more expensive now, especially if you can use it optimally, if you can get more out of it. And I think that's what we're going to see with AI data infrastructure going forward. The other interesting angle that we've talked about as well is that with high performance flash devices, you can also do all sorts of advanced storage features that you might not be able to do with other flash, non-flash devices, certainly, but even lower performance flash in terms of cloning and snapshotting and things like that. And all of that is useful for the AI data setup as well, because in many cases, you're going to be needing to make copies of data sets. You're going to need to move data around. All of that is going to take up a lot of back-end storage performance, just getting ready to do the AI processing. And if it's not a high performance storage system, and when I say high performance, I mean really high performance storage system, you won't be able to do that online. And of course, that's just going to mean that you're going to have a whole other infrastructure built in order to support all this. So it really does seem that storage really is fundamental. But then you mentioned the form factor angle, and I think that that's critical too. One of the things that I've been focused on when talking about Solidigm with people who aren't from the storage industry is the importance of, or the transformative effect of different storage form factors. Now that these servers are coming out, they're able to pack a lot more storage density into the same 1U or 2U rack unit device, because we're not talking about the old-fashioned disk drive looking devices anymore. We're talking about new things. And Jeniece, are we going to be able to talk about that? You presented that at Field Day. Are we going to be able to talk about form factors too?
Yeah, I think we'll be able to talk about form factors more. Not only the ones we've been, designing over the years, all the different varieties, as you mentioned, right, can be packaged into these smaller devices now, but also working with new types of form factors where you might see some, compute being done within the device as well as the storage. So hopefully we'll be able to bring that up. Computational storage, I believe, is what folks want to hear more about, and that's something we can definitely speak to. I will say too, Stephen, a lot of our partners too, you asked the question before about the partners and what we're doing with them. A lot of the partners that we work with have different needs, right? It's no longer just about, stacking a bunch of U.2s in a data center, right? There's, now edge compute, right? And being able to get away from using hard disk drives at the edge and being able to deploy a comparable SSD that's just as dense as a hard disk drive, and then walking away from, having it overheat or having it to be serviced, so we're seeing a lot of momentum with some of our form factors at the edge as well.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point too, Jeniece. We were talking about that during season 6 when we were talking about AI. I think that people are so focused on these big high dollar four DeLorean data centers full of AI GPUs and everything, that they forget that the next wave of AI is not going to be necessarily, I mean, certainly that's going to be important and that remains important, but the next wave of AI is probably going to be outside the data center or outside the cloud, that sort of cloud data center. It's going to be more deploying AI inferencing and retraining and AI in different locations. And as you said, AI at the edge. And there again, we come back to this question of power and cooling and performance and all of the different things that AI is going to need. And there again, I think that we're going to hear about that during season 7, or at least I hope. Do you have some people lined up to talk about edge and outside the data center?
We do. We have a couple of experts, or customers rather, that we work with. Cheetah Raid is one of them, who's just doing some really cool ruggedized edge work with a lot of military or U.S. government types of agencies. But then I think we also have some really amazing experts internally who are working on some of these, new SSDs that will really complement the edge. And I'm hoping to bring some of those experts on as well from Solidigm.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be really interesting to hear where they're going as well. And then, of course, we've talked as well with some of the data companies, with the data platform companies. One of the topics they mentioned that brought up during season 6 here as well was retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. Essentially, having AI inferencing or generative AI be able to go out in real time and reference data and bring in referencing data from structured data sets. That, I think, is going to be another transformative trend here in 2024, as instead of just asking generative AI to know everything or to make up everything, we're going to say, hey, generative AI, why don't you go ask the question that I don't even know how to ask, and then come back with that data. There again, if you're using retrieval augmented generation, it is really critical that that stuff have ultra high performance and good capacity, because that is going to need a nice data set behind it. But you can't have that data set slowing down the interactive aspect of AI that affects the end user. So I think that as well will see some relevance here too. Hopefully we'll be able to bring in some of those data platform folks as well into this conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool work being done in that space right now. Innovation, not just on the hardware level, but the software, cool caching approaches. RAG, as you mentioned, opens up all sorts of additional solution possibilities from the customer end user perspective. And so these are things that we're tracking. These are things that I think are definitely right for exploration in season 7. There's really interesting work being done on how models are quantized, shrunk and made more space efficient, on validation techniques. I mean, the possibilities are endless here. We'll try to focus on the things that we think have the biggest implications for the future of AI infrastructure. And we'll bring in, the one of the things about Solidigm is without tooting our horn too much, we believe we have some of the best partners in the business, and so we're excited to bring them in and hear from them.
Yeah, and we're very excited with that too. Thank you so much. Those of you who are listening, yes, Solidigm is going to be co-hosting this whole season, and Solidigm is sponsoring this whole season of Utilizing Tech. But as you can hear, we're not going to make this a big advertisement for SSDs. Far from it. I think that many of you will be listening in and will be hearing what we're talking about and won't really have to worry about this. It's the topic that's important. It's the data infrastructure and the importance of data to AI that's important. And so our commitment to the listener is that, frankly, this is going to be another season of Utilizing, just like season 6, just like season 5, just like season 4, in that we're focusing on a topic, in this case, the infrastructure, the data infrastructure under AI, and that we're going to bring in a variety of different voices around that, and that we're going to have, interesting co-hosts like Ace and Jeniece here joining me for these conversations, but that the whole conversation, the whole thing is more about making practical use of this technology than it is, hey, rah, let's talk about a specific product. And there again, I just want to say, Jeniece and Ace, I really appreciated your attitude when I came to you and talked to you a little bit about this, because you guys were on board with that, right, Jeniece? I mean, when I remember having that conversation with you and you were like, yes, I want to do this.
100%. Yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Stephen, to learn from our partners and share that with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And, this is what we do here. This is what Tech Field Day is all about. It's what Utilizing is all about. It's what the Tech Field Day podcast is too. So just to give everybody a sense of what's going on, Today is May 13th. This is the last episode of season 6 where we focused on AI here on Utilizing Tech. But the next season is coming real quickly. The AI data infrastructure season begins on June 3rd. This is our Monday podcast. So every Monday you'll have a new episode. It'll feature myself, an Ace, or Jeniece as a co-host, and a different company or a different person, a different customer in this space talking about the importance of data infrastructure and the nuances of data infrastructure to building a modern AI data center and modern AI processing. So check that out, again, starting on June 3rd. Before we go, Ace, Jeniece, I guess, Ace, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you and connect with you and continue this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Stephen. Really looking forward to season 7, and hope that many of your listeners will be able to join us for that journey to talk more about AI data infrastructure. I think there's going to be some really cool learnings along the way. It's a very fast-moving space, and it's a lot of fun to be here now and try to help sort of position our partners and accelerate progress in the industry toward really optimizing performance and costs. In terms of where you can hear more from us, Jeniece and I are on LinkedIn. Welcome any conversations folks want to reach out there. That's great. We have an AI page on our Solidigm website with a lot of this information where we'll continue to post new stuff as it comes along. That's solidigm.com/AI. So please check that out as well.
Well said, Ace. Yep, can easily connect with us on LinkedIn, and a lot of the customer and partners that we were speaking of earlier also have some sunlight, if you will, on our AI landing page. So again, yeah, head over to solidigm.com/AI to keep ahead of those things.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here as our sort of wrap-up episode for season 6 and our premiere episode or preview episode for season 7 of Utilizing AI. If you're listening to this, thank you for joining us. We are so happy to have you. We're so happy to have the audience for Utilizing Tech just building and building. This is the Utilizing Tech podcast series. You can find this podcast in your favorite podcast application, as well as on YouTube. Just search in your favorite search engine and for Utilizing and whatever topic you're looking for, and you'll probably find us. If you enjoyed this discussion, please do leave us a rating or a review. As I said, you'll find us in pretty much every podcast app as Utilizing Tech. This podcast is brought to you by Tech Field Day, home for IT experts across the enterprise, which is now part of the Futurum Group. Season 7, as I mentioned, is brought to you by Solidigm as well. For show notes and more episodes, head over to our dedicated website, which is utilizingtech.com, or you can find us on X, Twitter, and Mastodon at Utilizing Tech. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on June 3rd as we kick off next season of Utilizing Tech.